The wind screamed through the Sierra Nevada mountains, a feral howl that tore at the night like a levying thing. Snow lashed sideways, swallowing the world in a blinding white chaos. Somewhere along the treacherous twists of Canyon Road, a set of headlights flickered, then vanished, a silent cry lost in the storm's fury. By dawn, the blizzard had buried any trace of the tragedy under a merciless shroud of ice. At Placer County Search and Rescue Headquarters, the call came through at 5:47 a.m. A vehicle had gone missing, last seen careening off the highway's edge. No one knew who was inside, or if they were still alive. Tom was bleeding out fast. Clara Hensley stood in the equipment room, her breath sible in the frigid air as she zipped her orange SAR jacket. The scar across her left cheek, a jagged memento from a helicopter evac gone wrong 4 years ago, under the weight of the coming mission. At 38, she'd seen enough mountain disasters to know this one felt different. Like the air itself was holding its breath. Beside her, Coda, a 4-year-old German Shepherd Labrador mix, sat with unnerving stillness. His golden eyes gleamed with an intensity that made the hairs on Clara's neck prickle. "You feel it too, don't you?" she whispered, ruffling his fur. Coda's ears twitched, but he didn't break his stare toward the door. Commander Elena Torres burst in, her face carved with urgency. "Highway patrol's got nothing solid, just a witness who saw lights veer off near mile marker 18 before the storm hit. No cell signal, no plates, nothing. Could be a solo driver, could be a family. Air support's grounded winds are too wild." She jabbed a finger at a topo map. "Clara, you and Coda take the eastern ridge with Medic Sam Carter. 6 hours, max, before this next front buries us all." Clara nodded, clipping Coda's rescue harness tight. The dog stood rigid, muscles taut, as if he already knew where they were headed. She slipped a thermal pack into her kit bandages, splints. A beacon end ran her fingers along Coda's flank in their pre-mission ritual. "Let's bring him home," she said softly. Outside, the first snowflakes of the day stung her face like needles. The convoy crawled up Canyon Road, tires crunching through fresh powder. Visibility was down to a few yards, the world reduced to a gray-white smear. Coda sat shotgun, his nose pressed to the window, fogging the glass with each breath. "He's wired," Sam remarked from the driver's seat, gloved hands tight on the wheel. "Never seen him this locked in." "He's been off since last night," Clara said, her voice low. "Woke me up at 3 a.m., pacing like he was chasing ghosts." She didn't mention the dream she'd had, Coda barking into a void, a child's cry echoing back. It felt too close to superstition, and Clara didn't trust omens. But Coda? She trusted him with her life. At the staging area, yellow tape snapped in the wind like a warning. Officer Ramirez briefed them, his face half hidden by a balaclava. "Found some glass up the road, maybe from a headlight. No tracks, no skid marks, storm erased everything. If they went over, it's a 300-foot drop into pine and shale." Clara's stomach twisted. She knew that RAVYNE, a jagged maze where signals died and hope went to freeze. Torres assigned grids, her voice cutting through the static of radios. "Clara, stick to the eastern slope. Data says southwest is more likely, but we're covering all angles." Coda, though, had other ideas. The moment Clara unclipped his lead, he lunged toward a narrow trail leading northeast outside their zone. His hackles rose, a low whine escaping his throat. "Easy, boy," Clara said, tugging him back. "We've got orders." "He's got a bead on something," Sam noted, squinting into the snow. "You ever seen him pull this hard?" Clara hesitated. Protocol was clear: stick to the grid. But Coda's instincts had saved lives before: hikers, climbers, a kid who'd wandered too far from camp. She glanced at Torres, who was already barking orders to another team. "Commander," Coda's fixated on the northeast trail. "Permission to redirect." Torres frowned, checking her tablet. "Stats say southwest, Clara. We're stretched thin as it is. Stay on assignment." Her tone left no room for debate. Clara clipped Coda's lead tighter and started down the eastern slope, Sam trailing with the medical pack. The terrain was a nightmare, loose rock slick with ice, pines bending under the wind's weight. Coda strained against the leash, his whines growing sharper, more desperate. 20 minutes in, he stopped dead, planting his paws and staring northeast again. His eyes locked on Clara's, and she felt Ida jolt like he was pleading. "Clara, he's not budging," Sam said, his breath clouding. "I've seen SER dogs act up, but this? It's like he knows something we don't." She checked her GPS. They were half a mile from their grid's edge, the storm closing in fast. Her radio crackled with Torres's voice. "Hensley, report position." Clara ignored it, crouching beside Coda. His fur was dusted with snow, but his gaze burned. "You're sure, aren't you?" she murmured. 3 years ago, she'd found him barely 8 weeks old, shivering in a ditch during a flood evac. He'd looked at her then the same way, like he understood more than he should. "Screw it," she said, unclipping the lead. "Torres'll have my badge, but if you're wrong, I'm feeding you kibble for a month." Coda shot forward, a black and tan blur against the whiteout. Clara and Sam scrambled after him, boots slipping on frozen ground. The trail narrowed, weaving through a gully where ice-crusted boulders loomed like sentinels. Coda didn't waver, his nose low, tail rigid. He was tracking someone. Clara's mind flashed to the first time Coda had defied orders. A training exercise 2 years back. He'd ignored the scent trail, bolted into a briar patch, and sat beside a hiker who'd collapsed from a heart attack someone no one knew was missing. The evaluators called it a fluke. Clara called it Coda. Now he led them across a frozen stream, its surface cracking under their weight. The wind howled louder, stealing sound, but Coda's barks cut through sharp, urgent. He stopped at a ridge's lip, paws digging into the snow, and gave 3 distinct barks, his trained signal for a human find. Clara's pulse spiked. She dropped to her knees, scanning the slope below with binoculars. Nothing but white and shadow, then a flash of color, unnatural against the monochrome. Red fabric, maybe a jacket, half buried 150 yards down. "There," she pointed, voice tight. "Something's down there." Sam nodded, already unpacking ropes. "Looks like a slide path." If it's a vehicle, it didn't stop easy. They descended, Coda leading the way, his claws scrabbling for purchase. The closer they got, the clearer the scene became. A pickup truck, silver, crumpled like foil at the RAVY in his base. Its cab was flattened, windows gone, a tire dangling from a snapped axle. Snow had already begun to claim it, but Coda beelined for the passenger side, sitting hard and barking again. Clara's heart sank. No one could serve VYVE that. "Base, this is Hensley," she radioed, her voice steady despite the dread. "We've got a vehicle, 200 feet down the northeast RAVYNE. Coda's indicating a find." Sam peered into the wreckage, his flashlight beam slicing through the gloom. Cab's empty, driver's sides crushed to nothing. If someone was in there. He didn't finish. Coda, though, wasn't focused on the cab. He pawed at the truck's bed, where a tarp flapped loose, caught on jagged metal. His barks turned frantic, almost a howl. Clara joined him, her gloved hands tugging the tarp free. Beneath it, strapped to the truck bed, was a cargo box, dented but intact. Coda's nose pressed against a cracked seam, and then Clara heard it, a sound so faint it might have been the wind. A whimper. Human. Alive. "Sam," she shouted. "We got to serve VY4. They worked fast, Clara prying at the box's latch while Sam readied thermal blankets. The lid gave way with a groan, revealing a girl maybe 10 years old curled inside, her face pale as bone. She wore a red parka, hood drawn tight, and clutched a stuffed bear so fiercely her knuckles were white. Her lips moved, but no sound came, just shallow breaths fogging the air. "Hey, sweetheart," Clara said, voice soft but firm. "We're here. You're safe now." She reached in, checking for injuries. The girl flinched but didn't pull away. Her skin was cold, but her pulse was steady. "Sam, she's hypothermic but responsive. No OBVYS trauma." Sam slid a blanket around her, his hands MOVYing with practice calm. "Kid's a fighter. This box must have insulated her, kept the cold from killing her. He glanced at the wrecked cab. No way she was driving. Someone else was with her. Clara's gut twisted. She radioed again. "Base, we've got a juvenile female, alive, approximately 10 years old. Need immediate evac." Coda, though, was already moving, nose to the ground, circling away from the truck. His posture shifted alert, predatory. He wasn't done. "He's tracking again," Clara said, her voice low. "There's someone else." Leah vying Sam to stabilize the girl Lily. She'd whispered her name. Clara followed Coda through the deepening snow. He led her 50 yards up the slope to a cluster of pines bent low by the storm. There, half hidden under a drift, was a shape that didn't belong. Clara dropped to her knees, brushing snow away. A man's jacket. A hand, blue with cold. Then a face, male, mid-30s, eyes closed, blood frozen in streaks across his temple. "Second VY Tim," she called, checking for a pulse. It was there, faint, thready, but there. Adult male, severe hypothermia, head injury. "He's alive, but barely." Coda sat beside her, his job done, but his eyes never left the man. Sam arrived, dragging the medical kit. "Jesus, how'd he get this far?" He knelt, assessing. "Compound fracture, right arm. Looks like he crawled. Must have been trying to reach the road." Clara's mind raced, piecing it together. The man Lily's father, she guessed that Sir V.Y. ved the crash, dragged himself from the wreckage, and tried to get help. For his daughter. The cargo box wasn't random. He put her there, shielded her from the impact and the cold. He didn't leave her, she said, almost to herself. He was coming back. The storm pressed harder, snow piling on their shoulders as they worked. Sam splinted the man's arm, wrapped him in blankets, but his VY towels were fading. "We've got maybe 20 minutes before he's gone," Sam said grimly. "Evac's too far out." Clara looked at Coda, who hadn't moved, his fur now white with frost. She thought of Lily, shivering but alive, and the man who'd fought a mountain to save her. "We're not losing him," she said. "Not after this." Using a collapsible stretcher, they secured the Manda VYD. His wallet set in, began the brutal climb back to the truck. Coda stayed close, his warmth an anchor against the cold. Clara's muscles screamed, her lungs burning, but she kept moving, driven by the same stubborn fire she saw in her dog. At the truck, Lily was conscious, sipping warmed electrolyte gel. Her eyes widened when she saw her father, a sob breaking free. "Daddy, he's fighting, kiddo," Clara said, squeezing her hand. "Just like you." The evac team arrived 10 minutes later, a chopper battling the wind to drop a med basket. Lily and the VYD were airlifted together, the girl clutching her bear, her father's hand in hers. Clara watched the chopper vanish into the storm, Coda leaning against her leg. Torres's voice crackled over the radio, no longer sharp with reprimand. "Hensley, you broke every rule in the book, and you saved 2 lives. Get back to base." At Placer County Medical Center, Clara sat in the waiting room, Coda sprawled across her boots. The coffee in her hand had gone cold, but she didn't care. Torres appeared, her face softer than Clara had ever seen. "Lily's stable, mild hypothermia, no fractures. The VYD's in surgery. Skull fracture, internal bleeding, but he's got a shot. Docs say it's a miracle he made it this far." Clara nodded, stroking Coda's ears. "Not a miracle, just Coda." A week later, she VY sighted the hospital, Coda in his therapy vest. Lily was in a bright room filled with balloons, her arm in a sling, but her smile wide. The VYD lay in the next bed, awake, his face bruised but alive. "You're the ones who found us," he said, voice rough. I thought I'd lost her." Clara shook her head. "You kept her safe. That box, your jacket, you gave her chance." Lily reached for Coda, who nuzzled her hand gently. "He knew where we were," she said, eyes bright. "Like he could hear me." Clara smiled, meeting Coda's steady gaze. "Yeah," she said. "He always does." As they left, the sky was clear, the mountains standing silent. Clara thought of the moments that had brought them here: Coda's defiance, a father's desperate crawl, a girl's quiet courage. Science could explain the crash, the cold, the survey vow. But Coda's certainty, the way he'd known, that was something else, something deeper. "Good boy," she whispered, and Coda's tail thumped once, as if he understood. Together, they walked into the light, ready for whatever came next.